Okay, it's another edition of Mike's Anything Goes. Mike Vrena, lawyer, karaoke fan, and counterintelligence expert, all wrapped up into one. That's me. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about Rhonda Rousey. Everyone's been talking about it recently about her loss to Holly Holm, or devastating loss to Holly Holm, and I wanted to give my own perspective about that. And basically, in by way of analogy to the Rocky 3 movie. And I think, just to preface this, if you see the way Rhonda was acting, what was going on with her life leading up to this fight, there's a lot of similarities between that and that movie. I don't consider myself a martial arts expert or whatever, the MMA, whatever you call it, but this woman got my attention. I really didn't like her because I thought she was a very poor sportsman, and we'll circle back to that later. I think, I used to like watch wrestling when I was a kid, and I watched WWF when it was called the WWF back then, with Bob Backlund, who was the world champion. And although he was very boring, I liked his ethic because he always respected his opponents. And I think that in the physical combat or any type of combat, whether you're a soldier or what have you, you should have some modicum of respect for your enemy or your opponent. And I didn't like that about Rhonda because I saw some things like when she beat Misha Tate in the rematch, she didn't shake her hand, and I think that's not very fitting of a champion. A champion should hold themselves above pettiness, and they should act like a champion. But I do think she's interesting, and I think that she's probably a really nice person. I don't know her personally. I think a lot of it's an act, and she can definitely talk the talk and walk the walk, or however that phrase goes. But leading up to this last fight, I didn't think that she looked that good. Now, let's go back a little bit with the two previous fights. I think it was Kat Zingano and Beth Correa. Now, Kat Zingano, I like the way that Rhonda handled herself with that. I think she treated Kat with a lot of respect. I think she was very complimentary, and very much like Bob Backlund, I'm going to win. She showed Kat Zingano a degree of a modicum of dignity and respect that you should show to your opponent. And also, from what I understand about Kat Zingano, she's been quite through a lot. I think she's a single mom now. I believe that her husband had committed suicide, so she's not really in the best of shape. But unfortunately, that match lasted like 32 seconds, 13, 14 seconds, whatever it was. And, unfortunately, she went by the wayside. And the next match was actually kind of like a foreshadowing of what was going to happen here. Beth Correa was a very mean person and said she took a page out of Rhonda's book and started trash talking, saying that Rhonda's dad had committed suicide or what have you. I think she did that to really get under Rhonda's skin, and of course it eventually did, actually. But I think that was not the right way to handle it. And when Rhonda and Vecchi fought, Rhonda beat her rather easily, but Vecchi got in a lot of good shots at Rhonda. Rhonda's face took a little bit of a beating in that one. And I think because Vecchi's not a champion, Rhonda is a champion, Rhonda was able to beat her. And Rhonda started getting this air of invincibility about herself, and I think that's what led to her demise, because it seems like for the last part of this year, with these fights going really easy, she's been spending a lot of her time doing book signings, going on TV. I saw on the Kelly Ripa, the Morning with Mike and Kelly, she did an Entourage episode. She was in Fast and Furious 7, I think, and this is very similar to what happened in Rocky 3. When, Rocky gets rather civilized and starts doing American Express car commercials and starts wearing these fancy clothes and becomes civilized, as what Mickey warns him about. And I'm not saying that Rhonda is civilized, but I'm saying there was a lot of distractions going on. Now, I remember before this fight started, I think that Misha Tate was going to face Rhonda for the third time, and then that would have been boring because they've squared off against each other twice already. And although I think they're kind of enemies, Misha Tate was kind of like Rhonda's sort of like fan club kind of like broadcaster, because Misha was predicting these fights like, oh, is it Katzengana's going to lose and Betchy's going to lose and what have you. But when Holly Holm got the nod, and I started hearing about this woman, this woman is a real top-notch athlete, from what I understand. She's a several multi-time world championship kickboxer, and physically she's taller than Rhonda is. She's stronger than Rhonda is, from what I've seen. And Rhonda looked terrible physically. I don't know what type of workout regime Rhonda does. I think she does Pilates, but she looked heavy. Like she doesn't have like she's got some muscle tone, but I mean, Holly, not only taller, it looks like she's physically much stronger than her. And I think Rhonda, having faced these rather subpar people, thought that she could just bulldoze her way into this match, and she fought Holly's game. And the thing is, I think that Rhonda's game is getting the person on the ground and, getting them in an armbar and getting them to submit. And she's been trying to move away from that, like her last, by striking or hitting. But from what I've seen of Rhonda, she never kicks people. So, at least when she gets them close up, she'll knee them. But she doesn't have those long legs like this woman, Holly Holmes, did. And when I saw them gearing up, I saw Holly Holmes training in the desert, the New Mexican desert, and it was very Spartan-like, it looked like, to me, kind of like the way Mr. T was training in Rocky III, like alone in the basement, all by himself. I live alone, I train alone. And he's focused because he was hungry on that one goal to win the championship. And Rhonda, had said prior to this that she wanted to do different things after this fight, and I think her mind was already took a walk off the map. It was a rather humiliating loss. Rhonda looked terrible, from what I've seen of the fight. Totally off her game. Holly, frustrated her, made her make mistakes, because Holly is a champion. Holly had that champion mindset, and she basically got Rhonda to fight Holly's game, which is boxing. This woman's a champion boxer. Rhonda's not a champion. Rhonda's a judo champion. And Holly psyched around, and when I saw her kick Rhonda in the face, and Rhonda go down like a load of... Rhonda just looked bad. I think there was one part of the match where she just totally missed her altogether and wound up flying into the fence. And then, Holly got behind her, pushed her, and when Rhonda turned around, there was Holly's left foot going right into Rhonda's cheek or whatever. And boom! Rhonda went down like a load of bricks, and, and then she was knocked out or what have you. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. First of all, I thought it was rather poor taste that Misha and Cyborg are all oh, I'm so glad she lost, I think Misha's got, sour grapes because Rhonda's beaten her twice. And, Holly Holm beating Rhonda doesn't mean you beat her, Misha. Which I think was kind of interesting, was joining the bandwagon. I think it'll be kind of interesting, though, if there is a Rhonda Rousey, Holly Holm rematch, that if Misha Tate trained, Rhonda, looks like Apollo Creed trained Rocky. But there's a lot of similarities. Rhonda didn't seem to be training. Rhonda seemed to be very distracted by outside influences. This woman, Holly Holm, was very focused, and she's very, I think she's going to hold the championship mantle very well. She's said nothing but respectful things to Rhonda, which is the way a champion should act. And a lot of people, like Layla Ali, and others just don't like Rhonda's lack of sportsmanship. Not touching gloves, not shaking hands. It looks bad. And when you're the champion, you should act like a champion. As Bob Backlund used to say, live right, do right by others, work hard, and you'll be rewarded in the end. And I think that's a very effective motto to live by, not just in wrestling, but in your own everyday life. as for Ronda's future, I mean, many people say she might be like Gina Carano, who was a former MMA fighter and then went into films and never came back. I think she lost to Cyborg and never came back. But I don't look at that way. I mean, I think Holly Holm is something that's good for the sport. I think some people might have like gotten sick of seeing Ronda and Ronda winning in 30 seconds. By the time you sit down, the fight's over. Much like Mike Tyson was in the 80s up until he met Buster Douglas. But in that fight with Buster Douglas, Mike did knock Buster Douglas down, but Buster Douglas happened to get up and win. Whereas the whole fight, Holly just totally, manhandled, or should I say woman handled or person handled Ronda. Ronda looked terrible. And I hope that physically that she recovers, but maybe mentally, just a severe beatdown. And she's going to have a lot of soul searching to do if she decides to come back. I don't know how they could be favoring Ronda in a rematch. I think that they're out of their mind. When you look at the two of them, especially physically, I mean, I was looking at Ronda. Ronda's soft looking. She's pudgy. And I'm not trying to disrespect Ronda in any way. It's I'm sure she's in probably fantastic shape. But Holly looked like a stallion. Muscular, strong, confident, and smart. When I saw the weigh-in, and I saw, Ronda go berserk, oh, you're a fake, you're not the preacher's daughter, I see right through you. It's what was that all about? Ronda seemed scared, she lost her composure, and that's not fitting of a championship. And in some respects, I do hope that Ronda does come back and maybe can regain the championship. It may not be with Holly Holm. I mean, when Ali was stripped of the title for not going to the draft, when he eventually won the title, it wasn't from the person that he was stripped from. It was somebody else. So it might be that way that Ronda may eventually get the title, but not necessarily from Holly Holm. But I do hope that she comes back. And as for Holly Holm, I think that she's really conducted herself as a true champion. She's very classy. And I'm not saying anything bad about Ronda. From what I've seen, I like Ronda. I think a lot of it's an act. I just wish that she would act more sportsmanlike, because I think that's more befitting of her. The way she acted with Kat Zingano. I don't have a problem with the way she acted with Beth Correa. Beth Correa made some rather scurrilous remarks about Ronda's dad, which was really below the belt. Maybe Vecchi was trying to unnerve Ronda or get under Ronda's skin and trash talk like Ronda does. Bad move. And I don't think you should do things like that in the spirit of competition. But as it is, you could see there were a lot of parallels between Ronda's demise and what happened in Rocky III when Rocky lost the title to Clubber Lang. It was just a complete mismatch. Rocky was dead in the second round. I think that's what happened here, right? Ronda, you could tell Ronda was flustered, and in the second round she fell. So, Ronda, I wish you the best, and I hope that you do come back. If you don't, I still think that you have a lot of accolades to your credit. And Holly Holm, I hope that your championship reign is long and successful, and I hope that you'll conduct every fight the way you have this past fight, with the classic dignity that every champion should show. All right, my friends. Well, I hope you liked this video, and I'm really interested to hear your comments about it, and please let me know. Okay. Mike's Anything Goes signing off. Take care.